Friday afternoon. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Doing a quick video. I'll try not to drag this out too long. First and foremost, donations to the page are suffering again. So if you donate to the page, thank you so much. If you can't, if you haven't, but you can, please do so. I know the economy's tough, and it probably doesn't help that I haven't been creating as much content as I used to. I'm trying to get back to that, but just work has been consuming so much of my time. But if you can support the page, please do so. The information for how to do so is at the top of the Facebook page and at the top of the X page. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. And the main reason I want to do a video on this is because we've got a pattern shift that's getting ready to happen. And we've been spent the last about a week or so in the 80s, mostly the mid to upper 80s. Yesterday it got up to 89. So, and we're flirting with that today. So, it's trying to squeeze one more official 90-degree day out. We'll see if today makes it or not. But we'll be in the mid to upper 80s tomorrow, depending on cloud cover. More cloud cover, of course, will be a little cooler. Less cloud cover, it might be a little warmer. But then we'll have a low we got two things going on, and I'll show you here in just a minute with some modeling. Before I go to that, just a quick overview. You can see the pattern becomes more active, so to speak, but I'll show you how hit and miss that's going to be. The main thing is that we will cool down from the 80s down into the mid to upper 70s for a few days, and then maybe even down to the low to mid 70s as we get toward the end of next week. And of course, if you saw the forecast yesterday, we are in a moderate drought now. We've been dry since the end of July. So, we definitely need some rain, but again, it's going to be very hit and miss the way things are looking. We're going to need things to happen just right with this upper level low that's just going to kind of meander across the region over the coming week or so. So first, we're going to take a look at some high resolution data. This is the NAM3K, and we're just going to take a look at this and click through. And as we go through, we can kind of see there's not much going on, just a couple little patchy showers maybe going on out across Illinois today. I haven't even checked the radar to see if those actually developed or not, but you can see the activity is very hit and miss, and then you can see it begins by overnight and into tomorrow morning to pick up some, but you'll notice that this precipitation will get close to the state line and then just kind of fizzle out. And the reason there's kind of a backdoor trough that's sitting off here to the east that's kind of holding things up. And then there's also a high pressure that's beginning to develop down in the southeast. And between the two of those, it's kind of holding things up a little bit. Where those position themselves will make a big difference on how far east this low can or cannot come. So it's possible that the rain stays even farther west and we're dry through Sunday as well. Or it's possible that it all moves a little farther east and we get some rain in here by, Saturday evening. So we click through, here's by Saturday afternoon. You can see the NAM3K keeps most of the precipitation out to the west. And as we get into the overnight hours, very early Sunday, you can see it finally begins to let activity move to the east. So that by the time this is about 7 o'clock in the morning Sunday, you can see some activity beginning to press through. But again, it doesn't last long, and then things are just very spotty. So we switch from the NAM3K to something a little lower resolution, the European. Again, the same kind of thing. As we're getting into Saturday, you can see the precipitation kind of gets to the state line, and then it really kind of wants to fizzle out. And then by the time we're getting in, this is tomorrow evening. It finally, into the wee hours of Sunday, begins to let activity come through. And then again, it's just very hit and miss. This is by Sunday afternoon. And then the European then begins to allow it to become, the coverage to become better as we move through. Here we get into early Monday, into Monday afternoon. Again, you can just see the very hit and miss nature of it. That's the main thing I want you to see, is just how hit and miss this is. You can kind of see this high pressure sitting down here over the southeast. Kind of a surface high that's helping restrict things a little bit. And then as we move on into here's Tuesday afternoon, again, just all hit and miss, hit and miss. We get into here's Wednesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, the low itself begins to slowly creep to the east as that high pressure slowly gets out of the way. This is by Wednesday afternoon. According to the European, Wednesday afternoon is our best chance to pick up any widespread rain. But even at that, you could see it was still kind of patchy. This is into this is into Thursday afternoon. And then that low pressure finally begins to pull out of the area. And then by the time we get to Friday afternoon, most of the activity then moves on. So I just kind of wanted to show you that so you could see the kind of hit and miss nature of what we'll be dealing with over this coming week or so. If something happens where that low, tightens itself up a little bit better, can draw a little more moisture into it, then, we could get some wider spread rainfall. But, we just have to wait and see. They're very unpredictable. So while there are a lot of icons on the forecast, it does not look like we're going to have much in the way of rain out days, except maybe Wednesday. But we'll wait and see how that develops as that gets a little closer. So as we look into the longer range here, and looking out into the North Pacific, again, Indiana's somewhat right in this area. What I've been noticing is that the ridges of high pressure are not coming as far north now in the North Pacific. So that probably indicates that these hot days are over once we get past to tomorrow. You never know. All it takes is for something to strengthen. We can never really rule 80 degrees out until we get into November. But it's kind of looking like, for the most part, 80s are going to be done after this spell. And as we take a look then here at the GEFS, we look at the next 3 days, it's still got us in the mid 80s all the way through Sunday. I don't think that's right. But again, if we get more sunshine and less rain, this could happen. And then you can see we then tail off and it's all 70s the rest of the way out. And then early October, I really think it's underdoing this front right here. I think in early October, we're going to have to watch for maybe a front that's strong enough to bring us some days in the 60s, maybe even the upper 50s. So that's still a long way out, and all it takes is the tropics can throw a wrench into that. I will say, if we go back to the satellite, look right out here off the edge of this, there's a typhoon out there. If that makes it over to, it's going to recurve. It's just a matter of how strong it is when it recurves and how far north it, because stronger it is, it'll go farther north, and that gives it a chance to impact our weather better when it comes back over here in a couple of weeks from now. So we'll have to see what happens with this recurving typhoon out there too. It could actually intensify any colder air that might pump into the region. So we'll wait and see how that typhoon recurve goes. But even without it, I do think that in early October we're looking at least some days in the 60s. So with that, I want to take one look at one more thing here for you. We're getting into the time of year where people want to talk about winter. And I've kind of addressed this in a video a couple weeks ago. We're just take a look at a little more of the progress of what's going on. You can see this is the ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. We are below this thick black line here at 0. This is cooler territory in the Pacific, the Eastern and Central Pacific. Up here is the warmer territory, so you're looking La Nina at the bottom, El Nino at the top. Between the minus 0.5 and plus 0.5 is just kind of neutral. And that's where it looks like we're largely going to stay. There are some models that want to push this one down here really wants to go strong La Nina. I don't think that's going to happen. But we're probably going to reach minus 0.5, minus 0.6, maybe barely reach La Nina. There is a La Nina watch that's been issued. But you look at where it peaks out, and it's in the October, November, December. So November is the central month of that, and then it begins to come back toward the 0 line. And so that would put us in a transition from cooler toward warmer as we cross through the main winter months. And being in a transition really helps keep our pattern stirred up a little better, and really bodes better for a snowier winter. So we'll see if this is the way it actually pans out. It's too far out to know for sure, but again, I've said before, I really think that this winter, I'm not saying we're going to have a 2013-14 winter again, although it can't be ruled out. But because we are seeing some signs of things like the in that 2013-14 winter, we didn't have a Greenland block, but we did have this low upper level low that just set over the Hudson Bay in Canada almost all winter and just spun snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm down through this region. And that's kind of showing itself already. So we'll see how things develop over the next couple of months. But from this distance, this is probably the most promising. If you're a snow lover, this is probably the most promising winter that we've maybe seen in 10 years or so. But again, it's a long way out. All it takes is one or two things to throw a wrench into that. So we'll see how things go. But right now, from this distance, you know, I would think snow would probably, I don't, we've had October snows the last couple of years. I'm not sure that's going to happen this year, but I think when we get past about Thanksgiving or so and into December, when winter starts, it may start. So this is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates, and I hope you find this information useful. I'll try to update you more, especially as the pattern stops being as boring as it has been. And again, please support the page if you can.